But Constantis wants to say something here.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say that having heard Mr. Kounoupias talk, I'm sorry that I haven't met him before. There's a lot to be done. I mean, Mr. Kounoupias has a lot to do, and there's a lot to be done. It's a lot of hard work, but it was an uphill struggle for Miletis and myself. But those of you who are interested, there are ways to go about this issue. I was invited to give a similar talk a few months back. I think Miletis was there, at the university in Cyprus, the architects actually. And the case was referred as the Orams case. And I said, well, you can go on referring to it as the Orams case, but make no mistake, if we win, this will be the Apostolides case. About Kostas Frangeskides said something about compensation. I'm not sure I agree with Kostas Frangeskides, who is so totally against compensation. Compensation might be a good idea, but if compensation is a good idea for Mr. Apostolides, then I'm sure it's a much better idea for the Orams if they are entitled to any compensation. So those are the people who believe that they can solve Cyprus' problem with compensation. Perhaps they should think that compensation to be given to those who trespass rather than those who actually Another thing that I forgot to mention is that the judgment, or the ECJ judgment, was a very important one, in the sense that this is the first legal document, the first political document that we got since 1974, which makes reference to the Turkish invasion and occupation of Cyprus. It's the first time. We never had a UN document that would talk of invasion and occupation. We never had any reference from the EU for invasion and occupation, and now we have the highest court of the European Union making, stating clearly that what we have here is an invasion and occupation. And I remember when we were actually drafting, doing all the drafting with Simon and the rest of the group, we had such difficulty as to how to refer to these areas. Because, of course, they are, the occupied areas, and of course, we do have an invasion here. But then we said, okay, let's not try to, be provocative. Let's try to be diplomatic. Let's try to be careful. And now, we have the judgment, which is even far better than anything we could have hoped for. One last thing before we take questions. I'm very happy to see that we have Mr. Stephen McCormack in the audience, who is from the Cyprus and Greek desk of the Foreign Office. I'm not sure, I'll try to be as diplomatic and as I can. I'm not sure that the Foreign Office isn't responsible a little bit for what is happening, what has happened in the north. We have the travel advice, which is advising people as to how to go about how to deal. Those who are interested to buy properties in the north. In December, a couple of people from the High Commission in Cyprus came to see me in view of the fact that the opinion of Mrs. Kokop was coming out in a few days. And I told them that, I'm surprised that you show an interest now in this case, given the fact that I feel that, you have a lot to do with the creation of the problem. They asked me why, and I said, well, I'm not hysterically anti-British in any way, but the fact remains that there is a travel advice, and it says those of you who want to buy property in the north of Cyprus, northern part of Cyprus, just make sure you get independent legal advice. But anyone with a gram of, brains would know that if they're going to buy property anywhere, even in the most regulated of markets, even in London, even in Luxembourg, even in New York, they will seek independent legal advice. So I can't see how the Foreign Office thought that that would have been sufficient for a case like Cyprus. I fully appreciate that the Foreign Office wishes to keep a distance between the two sides. I don't want to use the word that they want to sit on the fence, but I fully appreciate that they have to be very careful. But what they should be doing, in my opinion, is to be fair and state the facts as they are. And the facts are very simple. Until now, nobody can touch these people. Nobody can do anything to them. But there has been the judgment in the Loisidou case, which clearly states that these properties remain with the original owners. And this is a fact. This is not a matter of interpretation. The judgment is there. And I believe that the Foreign Office has been unfair towards British subjects and British citizens in not telling them that this judgment was there. They could have gone on and said that, of course, if you want to go and get these properties, by all means do so. You can get away with it so far. So by not really giving the full picture, I think that the Foreign Office has actually contributed to some extent to the creation of the problem. A month later, the gentleman I spoke to called back and said that in view of our conversation, they decided to change the travel advice. It did make reference to the Loisidou case, and it was very adequate in my view. After the judgment was issued on the 28th of April, I wanted to have another look and see whether it had been modified. It had been modified for the worse. And now one can read that there are properties, that the ownership of the properties is disputed. I'm really shocked. Why? Because the ownership is not disputed. It's not disputed by Cyprus law, but then again, who cares about Cyprus law? It's clear when it comes to European law. It's clear when it comes to the ECJ judgment. But what's more important, the ownership is acknowledged by the Turkish Cypriots themselves. I have the law here, if we can call it a law, which is called Law for the Compensation, Exchange and Restitution of Immovable Properties which are within the scope of subparagraph B of paragraph 1 of Article 159 of the Constitution. And even the Turks themselves acknowledge that these properties belong to Greek Cypriots. What is in dispute here is not the ownership. What is in dispute is what should happen with these properties, whether there should be the restitution or compensation or exchange. So it's shocking to see how the British government is saying that these properties, that the ownership of these properties is in dispute. It is not. I'll be very happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.